Hi, folks, and welcome to another More Civilized Age. I am joined here by my always guest, Ryan Kennel from RK Outpost. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Matt. I'm glad we worked out that contract when you first met me that I had to appear on here every single month. I'm stuck in it. I'm an indentured servant essentially at this point, but I keep coming on. We keep finding things to talk about. So I'm happy to be here once again.
This is great. If you don't know, Ryan makes videos about other things besides Star Wars.
I made a couple yesterday.
He has made a couple of videos. Yes, he has. Yeah. I'm happy. Which book was that you reviewed from the EU?
The Pablo Hidalgo Chronicles.
Okay. Hey,
not the Essential Readers Companion, not that one. The Pablo Hidalgo Chronicles, which I'm sure we'll talk about today.
Okay, which we will talk about today. Also, very happy to have, first off, Luke from Scalender's Cantina back. Luke, welcome back.
I'm very happy to be back, mate, and I really enjoy these, so I'm always up for it.
I know. We've been having so much fun. We were talking about an hour before this started, mainly about what we didn't like about Ryan. But when Ryan came, we quickly changed the subject to other things.
It's a good thing you had a whole hour of discussion. Otherwise, you would have felt cut short.
Well, we were just reading all the hate that's listed on your Twitter feed.
Oh, yeah. You need more than an hour then.
Yeah. And then I have Todd. Todd, welcome. So happy to have you.
Well, hello there. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. Definitely.
Oh man, so happy to have you guys on here. This is our first one of the year, and it's another topic that I've always had that I wanted to talk about. But it was and we've all spoke about it on our channels before. But Lucasfilm's strange behavior toward fans, and obviously the reason this came up was the recent thing that happened because, as you know, there's no crying in baseball and there's no crying in Star Wars, supposedly. If so, a bully will come after you and mock you. Now, just to kind of summarize what happened, I'm going to let Ryan kind of talk about this because he's made several videos on it recently. So Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So we all know Pablo Hidalgo, leader of the de facto leader of the Lucasfilm story group, who's been at Lucasfilm a long time. Pablo Hidalgo has had a lot of fan interactions, and a lot of them have not been pleasant over the years. So much so that he got so much criticism that he decided to protect his Twitter account and purge a bunch of his followers, so that he effectively only had like 200 to 250 people following him, and that it had been that way for a while. But, after making fun of all these fans, talking trash to all of these fans for years, finally, I guess this was the important one that actually got a lot of attention. Star Wars Theory did a reaction to Luke Skywalker's return in The Mandalorian, where he was incredibly emotional and crying. Someone made a video kind of making fun of Star Wars Theory for putting his emotions out there. And Pablo commented on that tweet, and he said, "Emotions aren't for sharing." Now, anyone else, if you were to say, well, they were just being sarcastic, that was a joke that got taken out of context, I think you might be able to give them some leeway, say, okay, I understand. But when it's someone like Pablo Hidalgo, who has done this over and over and over again, he doesn't get that benefit of the doubt. And then he deleted the tweet after he got crap for it. And then he used the screenshot of that and put it as his banner on his Twitter profile. Now, again, whether this was intended to actually be an insult or not, at that point, it doesn't even really matter because you have then put it on your Twitter profile to troll, to do whatever. So it seems
by then he'd already got some blowback from it.
Exactly. So then it seems like it was an insult and it was taken that way. Star Wars Theory made a video about it. Everybody made a video about it because they wanted to bring attention to the fact that Pablo Hidalgo is still treating fans like trash. We'll get into a lot of the specifics, but that's what happened. Pablo Hidalgo was forced. You could tell he was forced to put out a statement on this. From what I've heard, it was drafted by the PR people at Lucasfilm, and he was forced to put it out, basically saying it wasn't really an apology. It was, I'm sorry you misinterpreted what I said. I didn't mean to hurt anybody.
Clarify statements.
Exactly.
You don't apologize. I guess. anymore. Now, if you want to hear the R-rated version of exactly what he just said, you can check out his channel.
It's true.
The R-rated, huh?
The R-rated version.
The first video is PG-13. The second one's probably R-rated.
So it's definitely R.
Yeah.
Well, it's good when you talk about it that you have a lot of passion for, what they're doing. Basically, fans are like crap. I mean, we've all been a part of it, basically, in the past 3 to 5 years.
And that's the topic here, is that in a way, Star Wars Theory, I don't know anything hardly about him. I don't watch his channel. But it was almost like, look what happened to me. And you're like, dude, where have you been? And he's been willfully blind of this fact that it's been going on for quite some time. And I guess you could say, yeah, you don't realize it until it happens to you, but it's something that's been going on for a long, long time. And I know you've shown some old tweets of Pablo's. I know Ichibaka has done the same thing, correct?
Yeah, this has been going on for forever. It doesn't matter if it's EU fans, people who don't like the sequel trilogy, people that like the sequel trilogy too much and are Reylo shippers. Like he will attack anybody and everybody if he doesn't think that they're right or whatever.
It's just mocking people, bullying them. Being an overall jerk online when there's really no need to. I mean, if he was someone who was, stuck in his mom, his old room as mom and dad's house, then yeah, I could understand why he'd be talking to people like that and mocking and making fun of them. But he's in just a different position there. But he's always been like this. Why do you think now is the time that he issues a clarification?
He was forced to, definitely.
Definitely, but why would he be forced to? Because of the status of this guy. He has what, 2-point-something million?
2.75, yeah.
Okay.
Probably because he doesn't want to end up like Chuck Wendig.
Well, yeah.
Maybe like that.
But see, that's an extreme line you have to cross to get to that path. It's been going on for the longest time, but since it was a bigger channel, now he got his hand slapped.
That's actually where a lot of my frustration comes from. I'm gonna stand up and say what Pablo said to Star Wars Theory is wrong, whether it got misinterpreted or not. It is wrong. I tend to lean the way that I think Pablo was being a jerk about it. I think that's wrong. However, like I said in my video, where have you been? This is literally all it took. All it took was the biggest Star Wars YouTuber to say, wow, this is messed up. And now Lucasfilm has him on his hands and knees issuing these apologies, issuing these clarifications. That's all it would have taken. So for the past however many years, where all these fans that have maybe 100 followers on Twitter, maybe they have 50 subscribers that Pablo's being a jerk to, all of those people have been driven away from the fandom because people decided to look the other way to keep their relationship with Lucasfilm cozy because they didn't want to talk about the drama.
Right.
And like, I'm not saying everybody has to make a video on everything, but the idea that all this went on the entire time, you can claim you're ignorant if you want. I think that people have more respect for you than that. I think that they know that you see things. So that's kind of a cop-out to me to claim ignorance of all of this. But that was, for me, the frustrating part of all of it. And I called that out, too, because, all it took was this. And now, all of a sudden, things are changing at Lucasfilm.
Yeah, all of a sudden. Now, Luke, what type of a change do you see this being in the long run at Lucasfilm?
I don't see a change, actually. As long as they have this story group that they have in Kathleen Kennedy, nothing's going to change over there. It's not ending anytime soon. The ideology is the biggest problem there. They should be simply apolitical like they used to be when George Lucas was in charge. And that's the thing that fixes everything. Just keep politics out of it and simply respect the fans, because of which you even have a company that you have right now. 40 years of Star Wars is thanks to the fandom only. And they're shitting all over it as soon as they can. Every day. For the past 3 years, I've been listening to this bullshit, like, weekly.
Yeah.
I think it even goes more than 3 years. I think it's even 5 or something.
Yeah,
and looks like, yeah. And the thing is, looks like they sprouted wings ever since George Lucas left, or rather handed over the company. for a couple bill, but
I mean, even remember when The Force Awakens came out, they were calling people sexists who didn't like the movie because Rey was the main character. But suddenly they forgot that the same people that were excited for The Force Awakens weren't sexist when they were excited for it, despite her being a female lead. If you guys understand.
You had all of the misinterpretation about, oh, look, there's outrage over Finn being a black stormtrooper, when there was legitimately almost none of that. It was mostly confusion from the people that didn't understand the lore and thought that at this point, stormtroopers would still have been clones. That was where that came. Right. And it has been, and I mentioned that in my video, it hasn't been only 3 years of this. It's been going on for a long time. I think all of us probably know back in 2014 when they made the decision to move away from the expanded universe continuity, shifted over to Legends. Anybody that complained about that got this same treatment from Lucasfilm. And exactly, Matt knows. So J.W. Rinsler actually is a guy who used to work at Lucasfilm. And he wrote a couple things for them and was pretty well acquainted with George Lucas himself. He's come out in recent months and really opened up and said, once Disney bought Lucasfilm, everything changed. It suddenly became much less about the fans and much more about this corporate oligarchy kind of, and that there was a definite shift. And you can see that from someone like Pablo Hidalgo, specifically, who had been there for a long time before Disney took over. Suddenly Disney, and he may have been a little bit of a jerk before. Matt would probably know better than me, but for the most part, I feel like that was reined in. I think they had a lot of restrictions as to what they could say to fans.
It was a different atmosphere. And again, I don't know what the linchpin was that changed all this, but I know from I've talked to a lot of people who knew Pablo Hidalgo when he was the fan who was giving all these ideas to Stan Sansweet, and he got the door open to him from West End Games, and then suddenly when West End Games, he got elevated. I talked to people who brought him into the Lucasfilm family, who watched him rise up through there. So we're good friends with him, and as they moved on, they stayed in good contact with Pablo, and they would chit chat all the time. And then the buyout happens, and all of a sudden Pablo's like, "I don't know you." And like, we just spoke. It's me. It's what? Yes, you must take a ticket and get in line. It's almost like he just totally changed. It didn't just happen gradually. It happened immediately. You look at someone, there's other people out there who, Nathan Butler from Star Wars Timeline Gold, who basically is done with the franchise either because they weren't answering any of his questions anymore. And he was like, guys, you know me. I'm not just a fan. I'm a guy who you come to me all the time and ask for help on timeline features, and now you're not even asking. I mean, you're not even helping me out, or you kind of just close the doors on me. And it's kind of weird. Like, what did I do? What happened? No, it's just this whole, we don't talk to fans anymore. Remember, they changed their StarWars.com. It went under construction shortly after. And when it came back up, the forums were gone. The part where you could sit there, and that was one of my favorite parts of the old StarWars.com. The only reason to go was those old forums. You would talk to Leland Shee. You talk to Sue Rustoni. You talk to a lot of the authors. You could sit there and talk to some of the top brass at Lucasfilm. It was a cool thing. It was a cool connection with fans and with Lucasfilm, and they totally got rid of that. And then their whole, I don't know, attitude or whatever was like, we need to put up this wall up against the fan. The fans don't have any say in this. We don't want to hear what they say. If they don't like it, then it's their fault. I mean, we've heard that a billion times. If you don't like it, it's your fault. You're a bad fan. You're a toxic fan if you don't like what we love. And you're like, wait, what? When did it be okay? When was it okay in any customer service error to say, you know what? Oh, you don't like the hamburger and fries I gave you? Well, you're the problem then. What? What are you talking about? It's so mind-boggling. And not only to act like that off the gate, but continue to double down and triple down over and over again. It's just insanity in a way. Todd, what have you seen? We haven't heard from you yet. What have you seen from the new Lucasfilm since the buyout? Great. And is he there? This is what happens. I start talking, people get bored. Okay, Ryan,
Yeah, Todd's having some mic problems right now, so I think that's what happened.
Ah.
And I think, just to kind of go on top of some things we've been saying. Listen, I am not I'm not the nicest person on Twitter, on YouTube, or whatever, but I represent me. I represent myself. If you come after me, I'm gonna hit you back pretty hard, probably. That's just how it goes. There is a big difference when you're responding to someone, and someone that works at Lucasfilm, that is in charge of story decisions at Lucasfilm, that represents the Star Wars brand, comes after you and says things like that. What's going to happen if I crap all over somebody and call them an idiot, call them a loser, whatever. They might unsub from my channel. That will affect me. What happens if Pablo Hidalgo does that to someone? You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar corporation that has now potentially lost a fan. And not just one, but all the people that see that happening. And then what happens? So those are the ramifications. And that's why when you work for these corporations, there has to be some sort of respect for fans. And at the end of the day, regardless of whether you like the sequel trilogy, regardless of the fact that you're happy that the EU is now Legends, all of these things, at the end of the day, I think most people want is like respect. And that's been a big part of this fight with Lucasfilm for the past 3 years. And I know a lot of people see The Mandalorian as a change of that. Oh, look, they're respecting fans or giving fans what they want. But I've been trying to say that all the people at Lucasfilm are still behaving the same way. And then all of a sudden we see it with Pablo. Now, the fact that he was forced to come out with that clarification, that's not something we've ever seen before. And I think it's because of the optics of the situation. I think this is going to have ramifications on how they interact on social media. I don't think they're going to be able to take shots at fans like they used to. But I still think it's not going to change the ideology necessarily. But, I think it'll improve at least their social media presence.
So, Luke, I'll ask your question. I'll ask the question I asked Todd before he cut his mic so he couldn't talk to me. I'm kidding.
Yeah, his mic is off as far as I can see.
That's fine. I'm kidding, Todd. Anyway, what changes, Luke, have you seen gradually with the fans and how they've been disenchanted?
Well, I think the main problem is Lucasfilm is to blame for what happened, for attacking the fans and everything like that, disrespecting its customers overall. But the thing is, at this point, after at least 5 years since The Force Awakens, I've noticed that the fans are too apologetic as soon as Lucasfilm gives them a single good scene or something like that. Like, for example, Luke Skywalker there. You have a really awesome scene. Honestly, it's a good scene. I'm not a fan of the show. It's meh for me. But it's a really good scene. It's satisfying to see Luke the way he should have been 5 years ago. And that shows that they could have done him the right way, but they didn't want to. And the thing is, people are apologetic as soon as they get one thing that is good. And that's not a good thing, because history is going to repeat itself if they don't change their ways. So at this point, Star Wars fans are allowing Lucasfilm to act the way they are. And I think that's a problem as well at this point, because they've learned nothing for 5 years. Absolutely nothing. It's really easy to gain their respect back as soon as they simply release something that they wanted to see. So that's kind of a backwards move. If you don't look at history, you're going to repeat it, and that's going to happen over and over again.
But what would you say to someone who, Jon Favreau, regardless whether you like him or hate him, it appears, and like I said, I haven't watched The Mandalorian. I have to make sure I say that, but it appears that he's trying to appease to those fans. And it's, to me, and like I said, I could be totally wrong about this, he's the one that has those embarrassing parents that say the wrong thing at parties, and he's the one trying to smooth things over. Is that what you think is that what appears to be going on, or do you think Jon Favreau is just with them, just trying to make?
At this point, I've respected Dave Filoni for what he did, despite what you guys think, for a long time. But I think that they are all part of the big picture as well, except that they're not giving in to the ideology and instead focusing on getting the fans back. They're probably all on the same page. Just look at, for example, look at that video of Dave Filoni when he's talking about feminism and stuff like that. He's pandering to the women. It's obvious.
Yeah.
He's probably a part of it. And after years of all of this crap, I've learned to simply not trust people, especially not from Hollywood. Every one of them is going to disappoint you at some point. But it is obvious now that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are working to get the fans back. The Mandalorian, despite how meh it is for me, and I did get bored with season 1, extremely bored. I can see with season 2, there are a lot of EU aspects in it. Like, for example, you have those spiders from Dagobah. I'm not really sure what they're called. Matt, you probably know what they are.
I know some out.
Added them into the Mandalorian series, although on another planet. Then of course, you have Boba Fett and stuff like that, but it's not really EU related that much. It's simply fan service on the legacy characters. So they are trying, but for me, I think it's going to take a lot more for the real fans to, for them to earn the respect back, because two cool scenes is not enough for 5 years of bullshit.
Ryan, what do you feel about Jon Favreau?
I think that Jon Favreau's heart is in the right place. I actually do. I think that Jon Favreau wants to do all of these good things. I think he wants to bring Star Wars fans back, which is better than I think a lot of other people at Lucasfilm are treating everything right now. And you can't. He even said he wants to unite all Star Wars fans, fans of prequels, fans of Clone Wars, fans of the EU, fans of all this stuff. I don't necessarily like the EU stuff that's coming into Mandalorian. I don't want you to steal a quest directly from Knights of the Old Republic for this episode. I like that. To me, it's a little bit hollow. I don't want you to take something that happened and then change it. Yeah. I want you to give us this stuff back and continue writing more stories in that continuity. That's what I want. Yeah. But people have always said, "Oh, Star Wars fans are impossible to please." Well, you're never going to please everyone, but you had an incredibly fan servicey season with almost no story, and you give them Luke Skywalker at the end hacking apart droids, and nearly everyone is united in the fact that they love this. So obviously Star Wars fans aren't really that hard to please. When it comes to Filoni, I think that Filoni is not as heavy with his identity politics as other people at Lucasfilm, but when you go back, you think about what he said at that women's conference about female empowerment, all of these things. When you look at his quotes about wanting to make the sequel trilogy about bringing back the matriarchy and subverting the patriarchy, that would be a very powerful thing for Star Wars. And then when you look at the female characters in Clone Wars and Rebels, I think you see a strong pattern. I don't think Filoni's the worst thing about Lucasfilm right now. And him and Favreau seem to be making something that a lot of the fans like, even if I am not really a big fan of it. I think we should demand higher, a better quality Star Wars than what we have. But I do think Jon Favreau's heart is in the right spot, even if for me it hasn't really worked out.
Okay. Me and Todd actually talked about it in our review of The Mandalorian Season 1. People are settling for very little instead of aiming high. I mean, when you look at what we got over the past, let's say 40 years, even though I'm 24, let's say, for example, you have those cinematics from the Star Wars The Old Republic MMORPG. The story alone in the cinematic, which is 5 minutes long, is 10 times better than anything The Mandalorian did, for example. Yet you don't even know the characters' names. That's how good the story was. And everyone is settling for nothing, basically. This is nothing. We should be asking for more, and they can do it. They have billions.
But I think the problem that we have is that they don't know about that. A lot of what I'm saying is a lot of the younger fans.
Yeah, they don't
know. I find a lot of younger fans are disenchanted with the new Star Wars. Maybe they'll watch The Mandalorian because everyone else is watching it. But at the same time, they don't realize that there's all this other stuff that's out there. I get that question a lot, like, oh, hey, I just got into the EU. Like I said, I get that at least once a week, if not every other day. I get people just stumbling upon my channel, and today I got a it was either today or yesterday, I got a comment saying, "Who are you? This is great. I never even knew something like this existed. I need to read this book," or this is. He said, "Your channel just gets better and better the more I'm watching here." I'm like, thanks. But you just find people that just did not know about it. Todd, how many, now that you're back, hopefully I didn't put you back to sleep, but now
I'm back. I think it's working.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a lot of problems with mics in the past few months.
What do you think? Do you think it is the Star Wars fan is just the average Star Wars fan is just settling for less? Or do you think it is that they just don't know what came before?
Yeah, well, I think it's 50-50 to that. The newer fans don't know, but the older ones do, and that's the older fans are the ones who are always I'm not really going to say complaining, but they're definitely asking for what came before,
Right.
However, the newer ones, it's just kind of, they've been introduced to Disney Star Wars, sadly, instead of all the good stuff before. But hopefully they get a chance to see the old stuff and then, decide, or not decide, that see that, that they can get so much more and not settle over, stupid little small blaster fights and stuff like that. It's just.
But see, that younger generation is the market they're trying to cater to, but that's the one that they're failing at. I was at a wedding last year when I believe it was episode 9 had come out. Is that when episode 9 had come out last year? I can't remember. Anyway, I said, hey, did y'all see that? I was just trying to start a conversation with him. Did y'all see the new Star Wars movie? And he said, oh, yeah, we did. We saw it last night. Someone goes, no, that wasn't Star Wars. That was something. Oh, was it? Oh, no. Oh, we watched, what was it called? Rogue One is what they watched the night. They didn't see it. I was like, oh, but they didn't know what it was. They didn't know episode 9 from Rogue One. They just saw some movie they thought was okay. It's not really engaging to them. Where us, you drool over everything coming out, from Lucasfilm back in the day, the books, the comic books, the video games, the movies. You knew what you were watching as a kid. But nowadays, he's like, yeah, I just saw. And he goes, wait, did we watch episode 9 last night? No, we watched Rogue One. Oh, okay. Yeah, they didn't even know. He thought that was episode 9. It's they're that disenfranchised with the series, which is just interesting to me.
It's not an event anymore. It used to be an event, and now too much Star Wars has created simply a meh franchise. No one cares anymore. It's not special anymore. Sorry.
Exactly.
It's not special anymore. No one cares about it. And I don't know. It's not engaging for new fans. And honestly, sometimes when me and Todd edit videos, we put a lot of, for example, in every intro and outro, you can see Old Republic cinematics, Force Unleashed, and EU stuff like that, Kyle Katarn. And a lot of times people, ask us, what is that? It's 20 seconds. Which scene, where's that from? And stuff like that. A whole lot of people don't know what the Old Republic is, what the Force Unleashed is, what Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy is, Jedi Outcast. They never seen it, and they ask us all the time for 5 years straight. And they don't even get a chance to see it. So that's why we do a lot of EU-based stories, because people love it. They don't even know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't have Twitter. So maybe Pablo emailed me my apology. Did anyone else get their apology in the mail or something? Or
oh yeah, I get it in the comments every day.
Ryan, if you'll just scroll through your Twitter feed, I'm sure you'll find some kind of apology in there from him, right?
Yeah, shockingly, I didn't get one. Shockingly, the only person that got a clarification was the biggest Star Wars YouTuber that exists. The one that has more
clarification. Did I say apology? I meant a clarification.
The one that has more subscribers than the official Star Wars YouTube account. He's the only one that got a clarification from Pablo Hidalgo. Everybody else can sit and spin, I guess.
Yeah. What kind of message does that send to the fans?
Not all fans matter.
Not all fans.
Only fans that give us very good publicity.
There you go.
So that's how I see it, and that's one of the very frustrating things to me. And I got a lot of blowback because I associate with a lot of people who have been calling Lucasfilm out for a long time now about their treatment of fans, regardless of how they feel about whatever movie or The Mandalorian or whatever. They've been calling Lucasfilm out for the treatment of fans, and now one person, it happens to him. And he finally decides to say something. Yeah. And I think you can be supportive of that bad behavior, like calling out that bad behavior from Lucasfilm, and also say, "Where you been, bro? Hope you stay in this fight." So that's kind of what I'm balancing, and also for that same person to make a video about bullying and then, go out hours later and call someone who said, well, maybe Pablo thought this, and call them a bootlicker and two-faced, maybe read the room a little bit, I guess is all I'm saying.
That's exactly right. It's like I said, it's mind-boggling, because I remember when episode 8 came out and people started hating it, and that hate continued on until the next year. And I remember talking to one of my good friends, Joe. I said, Joe, have you heard there are people still upset about episode 8? And one of the things that kept that upsetness was the way how Rian Johnson treated the fans. And some of the things that was coming out of his mouth, this is back before I knew Fandom Menace people, or you or anyone else. And I was like, what is he saying? I was like, what is he doing? What an idiot. He was just stirring the pot. It's almost as if, it's really weird, but if there would have been a different approach to how they would have addressed the fans right then and there, you wouldn't have had the issues that you have now. You see the big time director, giving the flipping the bird to all the fans who don't like his stuff, and being just that aggressive at them and blaming it on them. It almost was like a wake up call for a bunch of morons at Lucasfilm saying, hey, we can do that. We can blame them. Oh yeah, it's their fault. It's not our fault. It's their fault. They hate our stuff.
Here's a great example from Lucasfilm, from Disney Lucasfilm, the movie Solo. The movie Solo tanked at the box office. It was with problems. Ron Howard. When a lot of people said, wow, this isn't very good. I don't like this movie for this, and this, and this. What did Ron Howard do? Ron Howard, who's a guy who's been around Hollywood a long time, whether you like his movies or not, he said, I'm really proud of what we did. I think we made a great movie. I wish more people would have seen it. I wish more people would have liked it. But, that's really all we can do. So I'm sorry you didn't like it.
And that's all you have to say. That's all you have to say. He's not blaming the fans. He feels that he made a good product. Okay, well, that's your opinion. You're welcome to have that. And, well, sorry the fans didn't like it. I wish they'd see it. I think we had a good film going on. I remember reading that and thinking, that's how you deal with it. But the thing is, though, that's a no-brainer how you deal with that. How the way Rian Johnson deals with it is totally different. You're a racist. You're a sexist. You're a bigot. You're a Nazi. These are all things that Todd and Luke have never been called before. But
every freaking day, but basically every day I post something, I get called a fascist and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, fascist too. But the thing is, though, it's just like, really, that's how you're going to respond? I was shocked. I was shocked at how he was doing it. And again, this is back before I knew anything about a movement or whatever rising up against it. But I just remember going, can you believe this director? What is he saying? But now, no, that's how it goes now. You turn around, you mock your fans, you laugh at them, you make fun of them, especially when they don't like something. Even if they do like something, then you make fun of them for being too emotional about it. I mean, there's just like, hey, being a bully is fun. It's like everyone at Lucasfilm's figuring this out. Who is the guy on the story group, Ryan?
Matt Martin.
Huh?
Matt Martin.
Matt Martin. I knew he shared my name.
You didn't even describe it, but I assumed.
Okay, yeah. That dude, I mean, I'm glad he interacts with the fans. At the same time, he needs to stop. Because it seems like everything he says is just against the fans.
I think that he means well most of the time, to be honest, and I do think it's a good thing for him to do all that interacting.
I'm happy with the interacting. Just some of the interaction he has, I'm like, you should stop.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to an extent, especially when he's like, oh gosh, you should just believe whatever you want. Canon's whatever you make of it. It's like, it's your job, bro.
Yeah. He says something like that. You think I could hear everyone at Lucasfilm going, shh, do you know what they're going to say when you say that? Shh. Because then, of course, I made a video going, okay, canon's anything I want, then okay, the Legends of the old expanded universe is canon now, technically. Because I explained this to Luke and Todd earlier before we went on, but like to me, it's always been about whatever Lucasfilm states. So when the EU was declared non-canon, I was like, okay, I stopped fighting for them to keep it, and I started fighting for them to continue it as a non-canonical. Yeah, sure, make your own news story. That's fine. I don't care. Have someone else read it. I want to read the old story then. You know, I gave up the fight for wanting to keep it in the canon. Okay, that decision's been made. I'm moving on then. But you know, just the way I don't know, just the way that they, and I still am a little optimistic, maybe a little bit too optimistic, that if they were to continue, I think if they got the right people in charge, because it doesn't seem like the new story group doesn't care. They don't care at all about the new old canon. They care nothing about it. You can borrow from it, sure, but don't give them what they want. It's really weird. Don't give the fans what they want is the motto. It feels like it.
It's the ruin.
It's a motto. No, go ahead, Luke.
It's the ruin Johnson motto, basically. It started with him, as far as I can remember. Remember that video when Mark Hamill is sitting next to him and he's like, remember the fans? He's like, no. And you have Mark Hamill crying despite him being a nut job from Hollywood. Yeah. But still, you know, it wasn't fair.
Well, let me ask this now that I think about it. Is Leland Chee at all online, or does he talk to many people, or?
I don't know. I can't tell you. I know he's still there technically, but I have no idea what he's doing.
You know, back before the takeover, he was the man who was the highest ranking official who would talk to fans like constantly, answer their questions. I mean, be along with them. And for a while, I remember I made a joke and we talked about doing T-shirts at a celebration one year calling Free the Chi. Because it's almost like he was kept, they locked him away because he was a fan of the old canon. And now he has to silently support the new canon. I'm sure he enjoys it because he's a Star Wars fan. I'm sure he does. I don't know if he has a porg tattoo, you know, on it. That's got to be awful to explain to your kids years from later. What is that, Dad? Nothing. It's a gremlin that got caught in the microwave, son. That's all it was. It's just a little joke. Sad movie I liked years ago. I did this on a dare, you know. But I remember, let me back up something I just remember I thought I was going to say about Pablo. Right when I realized Pablo had kind of changed a little bit, which was shocking to me because I thought he was going to be one of our biggest supporters. Like, yeah, guys, I love the old canon too, you know. But instead, when episode 7 came out, I can't remember if this episode 7 or episode 8, he had that tweet that said they thought about calling it Shadows of the Empire. Thank God they didn't do that. And I'm like, what would be bad about that? And then it just he would say things like, "Aren't you glad the EU's done?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" You know, it was just kind of shocking to see that change. It just happened overnight for me. And then I don't know. Again, Ryan, Todd, Luke, anyone, if I'm wrong on this, it seems like when Rian Johnson started openly mocking the fans and turning around it, that's when everyone at Lucasfilm was like, "Oh, we can do that now."
I actually don't think it was just like, oh, Rian Johnson opened the floodgates. I think that it was always kind of like that. But I think that
they weren't like that before they bought out.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
you didn't hear any of that talk.
Well, I thought like ever since Disney took over, you had been seeing that. So I think that The Last Jedi we'd never seen upset fans to that level on that stage before. You know, when you're talking about that thing. So you had a lot of people coming out and being very upset about the product they got, saying something about it, and then getting insulted. So I think that the level of people who were upset about it just really increased and were very vocal. So then you started seeing more of the occurrences of them, and it got more inflated attention-wise. That's kind of what I think, because Pablo's always like, ever since Disney took over, he has been taking these shots at people. It just wasn't very noticeable until so many people were looking for it.
Todd, when did you first notice it?
Definitely Last Jedi.
I shouldn't talk so long. Just put him to sleep. I'm telling you. Luke, when did you first notice it happening?
I'm sorry, I'm back.
That's all right, no problem. I said I was gonna ask you, Todd. When did you first notice the change?
Well, I think when The Force Awakens was released, it kind of started happening slowly. But as you said, like when Ryan did it all out, that's when they realized, like, oh, well, we can do it all out. Let's go.
Okay, Luke.
JJ also did it. I remember. Everyone who disliked The Last Jedi is threatened by women. I don't know why it seemed like it started with The Last Jedi, but it didn't. I remember the hate that people got when The Force Awakens came out as well.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't like it. I was disappointed. It was a rehash of A New Hope. It was garbage. And at that time, it felt like you weren't allowed to think that way. Otherwise, your channel's toast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got a lot of bad comments in our channel when we said the unpopular opinion. But later on, after the Last Jedi came out, we had people from back then coming over to our channel and apologizing because we were right all along and stuff like that.
I got the same thing too. I got people who quit my channel because I wasn't going to be doing new canon stuff, and then they came back and said, "You were so right. You were so right." I was like, "Okay, I don't need an apology. I mean, at least you gave it a shot." That's what I have to tell people. You guys gave it a shot. You were more fair than I was. I wouldn't even give it a shot because I just knew. I was like, it's not going to be. I'm used to point to my books back here, but it's not going to be like my expanded universe. So I knew I wasn't going to be interested in it because at that point, for me, what Star Wars was the expanded universe more than the movies or anything else. I was more excited about getting the next book or comic book or just hearing more about exploring more about the lore of Star Wars than I was about what new episode from Clone Wars is coming out. That was just me. I mean, I did watch all those too, but at the same time though, I just love the expanded universe. I didn't need an episode 7, 8, and 9. If we were never going to get one, it wasn't going to hurt my feelings at that point. Because I was like, well, I think the line is basically taken off on its own. Very creative, imaginative people have taken over this story and have brought it to new heights, in my opinion. I mean, you talk about 5 minutes of the Old Republic, backstory being more interesting than anything you've seen in Mandalorian. Well, at the same time, we've seen that in comic books. We've seen that in of course, video games. We were seeing that in the novels too. I was just seeing really creative, excellent ideas that were coming out of all stages, and even in the TV show too. I like to toss his Clone Wars, especially because, I mean, the things that they had Mace Windu do with the Force, when he lost his lightsaber, and that whole little mini episode, I was like, that is just great. It's just awesome. And you have creative people who can take it. And I don't know where those creative minds have been. Maybe that's a topic for another day, but I don't know where those creative minds have been since. Does it seem like they have been that creative since then? I hear The Mandalorian has some good scenes here and there. Ryan's a big fan of any Baby Yoda scene, as you guys know.
The one I'm really looking forward to is when we get to see him killed at Luke's Jedi Temple. That's what I'm really looking forward to. So please, Disney, that'll bring me back to Star Wars. If you show Kylo Ren or someone just lopping his head off, I'm back, baby.
You're back.
You know what's the worst part? They're probably going to retcon it because of the fans now. They're definitely going to retcon it.
I don't think there's rumors about it going on. I don't think it can realistically happen. And if it does, it's still not going to make any sense. There's a rumor going around that what they're going to do is basically say that Luke hid him because he knew that what was going to happen, that his temple was going to be destroyed. And then he pretended to be like the jerk in The Last Jedi to protect Grogu. So you're telling me, instead of having the failure of Luke Skywalker as a character, now you're telling me, go ahead.
Who is Grogu?
This is the Baby Yoda. That's his actual name.
Oh, they should have just kept with Baby Yoda.
They really should have.
They're terrible names.
But that's the rumor going around, that it was all an act to protect this who would become the hero, Baby Yoda Grogu. If that's the case, then you're telling me that Luke Skywalker decided to just let all of these things happen, let all of his students die, let the Hosnian Prime system be freaking destroyed. All of these things happen. That's just as bad. And that's what people don't understand.
The worst part is that it makes sense. That it makes complete sense for new canon. That's how disjointed everything is in the new canon.
Yeah. And for people saying they're going to retcon the sequel trilogy, well, I got news for you. They're going to do that unless they just erase it all. If they actually retcon it, they're going to have to show you how they defeated Palpatine. So look forward to another Palpatine story where they deal with Palpatine if you want them to retcon the sequel trilogy.
Oh, boy.
Also,
Oh boy.
there are more holes in the story regarding Palpatine. Like, for example, in Star Wars Battlefront 2, the campaign where you have Operation Cinder, where Palpatine is destroying the leftover Empire, because if he dies, then there is no Empire. Then suddenly, he's back with the First Order. It doesn't make sense for him to destroy what's left of his Empire, for example, because they never planned for him to come back, in the Rise of Skywalker. So that's another hole regarding the overall new canon bullshit story. So,
Right.
The thing with that is, like, he would rather, like, if it was logical, he would save as much as possible from his empire if he's going to be back, as a clone of Palpatine, which they also, by the way, hated. But once it was canonized, it's all good.
What you don't understand is the Luke Skywalker was really Luke from Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire trilogy. He's a clone. You're welcome. I gave spoilers. I'm so sorry. Spoilers.
Imagine if it really is. If they retcon this into being Luke instead of Luke.
He's a clone.
If they did that in the Mandalorian season 3.
Like,
that's not actually Luke.
I'm sorry, Star Wars Theory, you cried over a clone. I'm so sorry. But it's okay, buddy. It's okay. Hey, that's it. That's all. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining us here. I want to give shout-outs to Scoundrels Cantina. You guys need to check out their channel. You don't already know it. They have lots of subscribers. Guys, what do you have coming up on your channel in the future?
We're actually working to finally upload more videos if possible, but our editing style is quite complicated and there's a lot of details. So we're probably going to be doing a lot of lists from like old trooper types from The Force Unleashed, for example, and a lot of stories. So yeah, like that, and some re-uploads because they really screwed us this year.
Right? Yeah. What hadn't been the best year for your channel. I'm sorry about that. Some of the issues you've been having. Yeah, your channel's been having as many problems as Ryan's Twitter feed, I guess.
Yeah, YouTube's fickle. You can have a great week and then the next week all your stuff just bombs. It's the YouTube algorithm, unfortunately.
Yeah. Folks, also you need to check out RK Outpost. He has his own clothing line. It's
plain gray V-necks.
Winter apparel. Come shop his store for winter apparel. I don't know. He's on Twitter. He's on Facebook. He's on YouTube. He's on Instagram. He's on. I guess you're on Parler, right? You're a
I'm on Parler, yeah.
Yeah.
How dare you? How dare you, alt-right bigot?
Yeah, basically. I haven't like lit up Parler in like 3 weeks, so I'm not doing my alt-right duties, I guess. So I'll get on it.
Well, wow. Okay. So anyway, what's coming up on your channel? What do we get to see?
I have no idea. There'll probably be some more follow-up to the Pablo stuff. I just fly by the seat of my pants. So
I'm telling you what.
That's probably what it'll be.
If you want to keep up to date on what Baby Yoda's name is and other stuff like that, obviously I've missed this. I didn't know Grogu was his name. Is it Grogu?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the guy's name. Anyway, but if you want to keep up on that, you can definitely check out Ryan's channel. There's video games on there. There's some Star Wars. And there's a lot of rage.
There's a lot of swearing.
There's a little bit of swearing.
Yep.
Just to let you know, his videos are not made for kids.
My channel is marked as not for kids. So if any kids show up there, it's not my fault.
That's
I told
right.
It's not for kids.
Right. He'll
not
have
for
to
kids or housewives, I guess, either. So
there you go. And we'll have to, and of course, if any kid is offended, Ryan will clarify his statements.
I will double down and I'll probably swear the kid out, honestly.
He'll cuss your kid out and then put it as his subject title on his Twitter feed. There you go. All right. Well, hey, guys, thanks a lot. And folks, we will, by the way, everyone, have a happy new year. And we will